Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here today. We are in like towards the end here of our six personal perspectives. And today we're talking about limiting belief. And hopefully if we have enough time, which I kind of feel like we will, we're going to get into the sixth one as well, which is being a counsel. So just in regards to limiting beliefs, this is going to be a share class. What are some, limiting beliefs that, and it doesn't have to be even work related, right? That maybe you guys have had or felt, if you're open to sharing. And then I probably like, yeah, even I have some examples here too. So I don't have enough time for training. I can't be successful in this market. I can't devote 3 hours a day to lead generation, or just some of their examples, which are like specific.
I can't have full life and work life, you know? And be part of like all of the kid activities I want my children, my career.
Yeah, those are great parts. Yeah. Chat. We did. Those are definitely great ones. One limiting belief that I had was around so for years I stayed home with my kids, did still do some real estate while I was home with them, but really had limiting belief about my skill set and what I was worth when I looked to go back into the workforce. And so it took some time, right? And like talking with people, ultimately though, I had to shift that mindset of my own to say like, you know what, before I was home with my kids, I had all these skills and I knew what my pay, was like what my worth was. But then you kind of get into this it's definitely a mindset, right? Of, well, now I'm just home with my kids. I just, right? You kind of put that just in front of there. And in talking with someone, a particular woman in particular, she was like, you know what, think of all of the skills that you do on a daily basis around your house and with your kids. There's no just in front of that, right? And so those skills are easily transferable to any work environment that now you want to go into. And it took some time just for me to like kind of get that confidence back up again of like, because this was also just my mindset of being home with my kids. I kind of started to see, my friends excel in their careers and that type of thing. And I chose to step back and have those years with my kids. And so then it was like, well, am I at that level? And that type of thing. So that took a shift for me. And that was a very much limiting belief, right? And I share that now with so many moms that I see who also have made that decision to stay at home with their kids. Because it's a powerful time and it's a magical time. And I want people to know that they're emboldened to do that type of thing. And that it's not gonna like stunt their career opportunities once their kids are back in school, if they choose that, right? But it's all about choice. But that was definitely a limiting belief for me that I kind of had to overcome at one point in my life. And so just even reading through the six personal perspectives, and I've seen the class taught before, that one always pops in my head as like, oh, I remember that feeling, right? Of like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. And I think those creep in all the time for us. Yeah. Do you want to share, Corey?
I think mine was just similar of like career of coaching soccer and then coaching evenings.
What is the like phrases maybe that you guys have given yourselves of how instead of saying like I can't do both, what is do you have a sentence where like you've changed that at all, like that?
Yeah, I think it's back to that mindset piece of like I'm always gonna find a way just to get it done. Like I'm going to figure out how I can do both. If there's any coverage, leverage, or, schedule. That I also organized person, but forces me to be organized, right? Like, use the calendar.
Not
So,
just use it, but also stick to it. Yeah. Right? Put it on there and then forget it. Yeah. Yeah. And what about you? What is a different mindset that you had to like switch for that?
Back what she said, like, I haven't done it yet, so I can't really give like a motivational statement, but I know I'm gonna get through it. Like, it's scary now because everything's so new, and there's actually been like my mom was in a company, and I told some of their clients that like, oh, this is a new career move I'm going to. Some of them have actually been like, are you sure? Like, that's what you want to do? I'm like, okay. Out of all the responses you could have gave me, that one was not it. So having to hear that doesn't necessarily help, but I know that honestly, like, a lot of people do a career, and I'm like, if I want to do it, I can do it. I just can't do it. Not let negative comments.
Right. For sure. Absolutely. I'm gonna see if I can get this video to work. Oh, there's not a lot of fans back there.
The other steps be like, I heard this was recorded, right?
Yeah.
The other steps, like, since this is step 5.
Yes, they would be on the YouTube channel. Okay, so maybe it has to do this. High achievers remove their beliefs, that thinking of in the back right. Now, see if it. Well, I really wanted to watch this girl. Well, I'll maybe go over and. Is that the key? I don't know. I'm just, okay, let's try it. Yeah. Ooh. I just watched it, so. Okay. Oh. That's okay. Well, I'll tell you what she said. So, it was, someone who just started in real estate, and she and her team said they were going to do, 100 transactions that year. And she was like, why did I say 100 transactions? Like, I'm brand new. How are myself and this group of agents gonna do 100 transactions? But then they decided, like, they worked backwards, figure out like, well, what are steps to do that? And in doing that, made the plan and then just followed the plan and made it happen. And so she relates back to that instance a lot in her life of when I think I can't do something, I make the plan of how I'm gonna do it. And then I just follow the plan. And just that helps remove that limiting belief because she's like, no, I have a plan. You know, instead of just being like, I want to do this and then be like, I don't know how I can do that. Well, how are we going to do it, right? So putting kind of that piece behind it. One of the things we're going to do here is just thinking about a time, which you guys kind of gave me already, of when you had a limiting belief and how you needed to remove it and how did you do it. So in that video, like she makes a plan and kind of works her way backwards first. And in doing that, like if you have done that in the past, what are some successes that came your way? Like once you removed that limiting belief? Has there been a time in the past? Maybe I'll let you think about that for a little bit.
For this year, like I said, I wanted to do 12 transactions, and that felt overwhelming at first, of like, where am I gonna find that? Seems like not 100 though.
It was a
But then-
team, just one person.
But then breaking it down, just be like, just focus on one month was a much more like achievable, like, it removed the barrier for me. But then there was a couple months I had 0, so it's kind of like that year reset in of like, now you're behind. This month, like, I've caught up again, so it's like, okay, we're back on track, and it just gives me the confidence, positive mindset or outlook for the rest of the year now. So it's like, okay, you can achieve this, like, one a month, it's just keep going.
Sure. So that's a really good. And in reviewing the material for this class too, it made me think a lot about our ALCC that we just had and the book that they're reading, The Mountain Is You, was really kind of around this like self-sabotage, right? And just the thoughts we put in our own heads. And to your point, Bethany, I think is the one who said that she tries to remember to track her instead of her month. And there's power in that too, right? Because yeah, you might be behind one or way ahead another one, but if at the end of the year you've met your goal, I think that's kind of where you're at. There's also, I don't remember who it was, someone with KW, but they, will set a goal and it might be just beyond attainable, right? But you work harder then, right? Because you want to hit that maybe slightly unattainable goal that'll bring you higher than had you set a goal that you're like, oh, I know I can know this, right? Because there's no growth there in hitting that goal that that like, yeah. But that stretch goal kind of. Cool. How about you? Is there a time when you're like, oh yeah, I had to get rid of that thought?
Actually, when I was taking national exam, I was freaking out about it. I was listening to a lot of podcasts with that course material itself, and there was one podcast in particular that was saying, like, I know there's a lot of people that have to take it multiple times. Oh, fine. I don't have time to take it multiple times. But then when I went to go take the test, I passed. I mean, it wasn't flying colors, but I passed. And it made things so much easier. Because honestly, I felt like I passed because I had a plan.
Kevin here?
Studying, making sure that I'm hitting the study goals I'm hitting daily. I'm like just a smaller picture versus saying, oh, if I don't pass, it's out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you had a study goal every day. Okay. And what did that look like?
So my kids go to bed by 7:30 and I go to bed by 10. So I'm like, as long as I'm studying between 7:30 and like 9:30, last half hour, I'm like, let's, cool down and worry about me versus just solely on real estate. But I tried to hit that 5 times. I'm not gonna set it 7 because the weekend came, I'm like, you know what? Let's relax. Let's not go so hard. But I hit it 5 times a week and I still to this day learn a lot. I think the only course out of all the courses that I was like, I don't know if that's gonna register with me. Like the construction side, it was like course 3. I'm like, I was round up.
Yeah.
So many things, and I'm like, oh, wow, a lot. We might need a refresher on that, but it's okay.
Yeah. No, that's great that you had that kind of plan, right? So now think of a limiting belief that you have like right now. And what are some steps that maybe you have in place, like for hitting your goal, like sure you have stuff that you're doing, right? And for you too, like if you already had that time spread away, like have you now taken that time back into your personal life, or is that still career focus, time block for you all?
Right now, I still work with my mom, so like Monday, Thursdays, and Fridays. That time block 7:30 to 9:30. I'm focused on real estate, but now that I took off Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I'm now using that entire day to do those things, so that I be processing. And I'm brand new at this. It's not like I know what I'm doing, but I'm getting there, So yeah.
So I think that's awesome. And being in the office, right? And having, I think there's strength in being around the conversation, right? Maybe you're like, oh, Alex is really good too on, and just being in the environment, right, where productivity is happening.
And I think that'll help me post a first.
Okay.
Like learning that language and just seeing what other agents. No, act like they're proud to the action. Help a lot. Just even asking questions. Asking questions.
Probably need to spread my wings a little bit.
For sure. Well, as you kind of look at that, so it sounds like you also have a plan. So what does your, like, when those beliefs creep in, what do you go back to as far as,
I go back to just like a attainable goal. It's one a month. Kind of like just take that step back and just realize like why I set the goal. It's not just like the number, right? It's the career, it's the building the platform, the income, like all of that. So just kind of level setting and like grounding myself again of like, why are we doing this? Back to that, it's like, yeah, I have helped however many families and like that success like shared with them. So it's not like just thinking how like rather than because there's times you feel guilt, right? Like trying to generation here you go, you're here to like help families achieve their goals. You just research that. So I just try to break down to its like basic level and whole why.
and then do you have tasks around that help you then kind of start that again?
Yeah, I think like the days or weeks that you're like most known, like just like talk to a friend again. Like talk to somebody who's just like in a it's conversation rather than looking all or no, we're not. Go back to somebody you have you already have the relationship with, find out that again.
I love that. That's a great suggestion too. I think for anybody who's a good friend.
Yeah. Well, just like it's like okay, no, you do know what you're talking about. Like it's like
Right.
whether because there's sometimes I get in scenarios where I'm like, oh, they're asking me questions I have no idea too, and it's like you can stop that. So it's like when I can talk to certain friends, they're like, well, how's it going? And you're just actually like, yeah, it is going good because you're finding those positives and like speaking that like nerd stuff.
Right. Yeah. And knowing too, like I think this industry, there's so many nuances, right? Like there's always gonna always probably, can I say that? Always probably gonna be something we don't know.
Right.
And that's great. There's a lot of opportunity in that. And there's always somebody else who knows that thing, right? So I think that's comforting too, to be like, okay, but I probably know someone that knows that thing, so it's gonna be okay. So think of a time in your life when you had that limiting belief that you needed to remove. Oh, whoops, we just did that one. So that's why I was like, oh, this one goes a little fast just because we all have that limiting belief, right? So thank you guys for sharing too. And there may be a lot of like little ones too, like the big ones come up easy, right? But the little ones always creep in as well. And so, even just the other day, I'm training this new puppy. And there's certain times when I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Where it's like, I can't train a puppy. What was I thinking? Like those, and it's just, those are smaller, right? They don't, the impact isn't probably as great, but those things always creep up, right? And then it's like, no, it's gonna be fine. Get more Yeah. So in just talking about limiting beliefs, do you guys have any ahas or anything that like really resonates about like just
I know. Anytime, like, have that I get so wrapped up in my, I have to go to this, to this, to this, and I 5 minutes to take a breath. Give yourself. It's gonna be okay.
I fucked myself in there probably. You need it.
right? I know, just lock yourself in the bathroom, like have that time. And you two are both like dual career managing too, so that's a interesting take on that too, because different limiting beliefs in here, but also other places, right? Where it's like, so that's an interesting aspect you guys have too. So here's just a quote, your complaint. Okay, I'll just read the quote. Your complaints, your drama, your victim mentality, your whining, your blaming, and all of your excuses have never gotten you a single step closer to your goal. So let go of the nonsense. Stay as anything. So this is why I thought we could just roll right into accountability. And accountability. Oh my gosh. So just being accountable, right? Like we have accountability groups here. Keller Williams also loves accountability. And I think somebody once said like, you know, there's being accountable, right? And then wanting someone else to hold you accountable. Those two things kind of mean different. So if you guys want to share maybe an attitude or approach that you currently have to like being accountable, or just accountability. Are you a fan?
Yeah, I'm very much a fan. I've been also sort of a villain for accountability, and it was my first athlete, so it's not like I had a clue, but I really looked at my goals and those really goals. Okay, like what we doing? I can try. I just want there. People were gonna be like, oh yeah, this is the goal I had. I didn't reach them.
Yeah.
And having to share that, I don't know, I feel like that's like it's more fire and you could be like, okay, let's show that you can do it not only to yourself, but to your sharing.
Right. You don't want to let yourself down, but you don't want to let other people down
Yeah.
on what you do. Sure. Yeah. I think that's part of that awesomeness, right? Whether it's here at work or at a gym and you have like that one buddy that you're just gonna go see and you're not there and they're like, how are you? You know? So just having accountability across the board. What do you think of it? Are you a fan? What do you think of accountability?
Yeah, I feel like I have to be a fan being a coach.
Yes.
But no, I am though, and media plays a big role in my life. Like feeling like being like awesome and but for myself, just tracking the daily, you know, conversations and lead gen is like that's my form of accountability of like having to be like we only put 5 on the board today, like was that enough conversations or maybe it was they had, you know, just I think for me personally tracking my numbers is
In conversations, do they have to, where you have to pick up the state or just, like, how do you track that?
yeah, so this one's lead gen, so it's for the just reach out styles.
Is that something that you, put together? Okay. That's great. No, that's really good. And so just knowing too about like just making our lives more comfortable, right? Like what are our goals? How do we want to achieve those? And then finding that buddy that's gonna also do and for a lot of people who that is our partner as well. Of just holding us to kind of what we say we're right. I know when I started with Keller Williams and I started doing the big rocks and the hump rocks, yeah, all and the sand and all that. And I went home and I was like, oh my gosh, we got to start having weekly meetings. Like, what are our big rocks?
What are we
You know? But it was I love that analogy of it too, where it's like, yeah, all of this stuff can fit in there, right? But you have to kind of be working towards something big to put in there as well. And like, what does that look like? And so now, okay, these are you know, our goals, and then other little pieces in there for sure. Talk about just from a different perspective as like a coach for kids, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you use that? 'Cause we're kind of talking about it as not a coach, but you know, from a coaching perspective. But how do you use that as a coach?
I similar to like what are your goals as a player, right? Like some kids are there to have fun, and that's totally fine. So it's like, what what like attitude did you bring today so that you can have fun? You know, and what kind of environment do we have at practice to make sure you had fun? Is an easy one, but then even too on the personal training side, it's like, yeah, I know certain players' goals are to make the better team next year or go to college and be able to play. So it's like, how do we, if on the hard days when they're there and they don't want to do the work or don't want to do the extra 5 push-ups, whatever it is, it's like, okay, well, what's our goal? Why are we doing this? Okay, and just kind of resetting that way. So I like to be that accountability voice for players and just be that structure and guided that hopefully they can carry over to their lives.
Yeah. And so since you know, those goals maybe for the individual, is that something that you sit down and talk with them about?
Yeah,
Okay.
we do monthly. We have a notebook that we keep them in, and we're able to just like revisit those. Every time we meet, talk about how was your week last week, we kind of recap and what should we look for this next week. But then we always each month be like, hey, are we this goal? And stuff like that. A lot of
So have you now put some of those same questions when you're like looking at yourself?
I should more.
Those are
Good
great
asking
questions. I love it.
Not so much as myself, but no, I do. And that's also why I like the office. Like I like start my day resetting that, looking at those, be like, okay, I'm doing maybe these. So that's why I like I don't work at home. Dishes, snacks, dogs, whatever is going on. So
Right.
when I come in the morning, I'm able to just like have that moment to like focus in on what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah. And what about you? You kind of even said, Johnny, about like, hey, I'm coming in these days to focus, right? And so that's already holding yourself accountable, right? Yeah.
Well, one of the forward was still different, but now I see that it's way more easy. I don't have distractions, but she's at home. So many things going on. So, like in the morning, I'm like, no, drop me my daughter off to school, and then drop my son off at daycare. And now it's like, like even today, this morning, I said, I like practice by myself. I don't have to worry about nobody in the back asking me for things. I got home, I was able to work before I even came here, and I was like, relax, like do this. It makes me more motivated to be able to get tasks that I need done.
No, that is awesome. Then you're time blocking in a sense too, right? For that. One thing, we see in, holding people accountable is that like being in victim mode means that you're focusing on things you usually have control over. When you become accountable, you are then ready to focus on things that are within your control, right? So you guys both kind of touched on like the pieces that you can control, which is great. Because then you can go and not play victim, right? Because you're controlling those things that you can already. What would you say to somebody who, let's say they're in your accountability group, and they're like, oh, I can't do this because of, right, whatever, fill in the blank. How would you then look to hold a peer accountable?
I think it's just ultimately asking questions. I think, and she does do a good job of saying like, well, why was that important to you? So if you didn't, it affects your life. Like, why did you set the first set up in it? So that's like focusing back on why is it important to you? Why did you set the goal? Or what accountability is.
Yeah. So you're looking to know like what is the reality of the situation, the why behind the goal, right? And maybe it's not the right goal. And maybe you uncover that too, right? Yeah. What about you? What would you really put you guys on the spot?
It's kind of hard because I'm new, so it's like,
Yeah.
I didn't reach the goal.
That's not gonna
The goal is not to have it happen, but it could, very well be. But I think I'd probably just start asking myself, like, oh, I didn't reach the goal. Like, why didn't you reach the goal, and everybody has a choice to be made in every decision. So I feel like what decision did you make in, right? Two jobs, but they were picking up shifts, and now coming into they off. Why did I say yes to that? That my goal was get it done on this day. Why am I figure out why we're
Sure. Yeah, and I don't know if you're like me, but there were definitely weeks where I was just getting the goal, like hitting the goal because I didn't want to show up on Wednesday, and I was like, why didn't I just? I made the goal last Wednesday. Why didn't I do it on Thursday? Why did I wait until like Tuesday to do this? This is terrible. But even having that piece, right? Like I'm actually now just actually hitting the goal because well, I don't want to go to my accountability group say they didn't do it and then have to do whatever punishment things that was
actually gave yourself a punishment too. Like, okay, I can't watch TV.
I know. Well, and there's actually a thing where some people are more motivated towards pleasure, right? And some people are more motivated away from pain, right? And so kind of find out which one you are. Like, if you do X, you get to have like that extra bowl of ice cream, or if you don't do X, you have to do some like 25 push-ups or whatever it is, right? Kind of find out, okay, no, I'm gonna work towards that ice cream, or you know what, I really push-ups. So you kind of figure out like, okay, which is my motivator.
Actually, for my first closing, I realized that I'm part for the positive and negative. But my family is going on a trip in August, and I was originally going on the trip. Then I had to go back, car issues, buy a car, money had to be spent elsewhere. So in my head, I was like, if I can do the transaction by August, so that is my motivation. And that's why I'm going ham, because I'm like, I'm pretty sure whatever I get on that transaction, we'll be able to cover the whole week. Well,
Yeah. Yep. That is awesome. Love that. That is great. So here are just the two different sides. It sounds like we're on the accountable side, not so much on the victim side. There definitely, right? We all have those days when we're like, ugh, you didn't do it because, or so and so did this, so then I had to shift and do this, or whatever that might be. And I really think about victim and accountability with my like mom hat on, and teaching my kids, right? Where it's like, well, yes, this happened, and then, right? Like, how do we shift back over to being accountable? Because yes, things are gonna happen, right? Where we could be in the victim column, like everybody could. But how do we then pass that to like find a solution, own what happened, and then gets on with it, like the next plan, right? There's a sign in our hallway here, and I this isn't exactly what it says, but it's don't bring me a problem, bring me a solution. And I think about that because problems are going to come up, right? We're definitely going to be in that victim column where things are going to happen. But then what is our solution to kind of get back on it, to hold ourselves accountable? So being a victim doesn't seek reality, fights reality, blames, makes excuses, waits and hopes. Being accountable, seeks reality, acknowledges reality, owns it, finds solutions, and then gets on with it, right? Like, you maybe had a setback, and now we're moving on. And unfortunately, I don't think that one will work either. So we'll just jump into this exercise. So think of an issue or problem you're struggling with, like right now. We'll give you a couple of minutes here to kind of check it out, and then we'll talk about what that struggle is, and then maybe some steps that you could utilize to set you up for accountability within that issue, whether that's actually with being accountable or needing somebody to kind of help you out with that. So I'll give us a couple of minutes just to kind of maybe think of an issue or something that we're struggling with right now. I know we've kind of shared quite a bit already. as far as if you're being accountable, if you're allowing yourself to play that victim role.
I think, I think within the past couple weeks, I've started to, not started, but like have been leaning more towards that victim side. Like I overcommitted my soccer schedule. I'm 6 days a week right now. And it's from 5 to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. And that's usually happening and stuff. And it's tiring. 2 hours of 3.5 to 7-year-olds, and then I have another hour of technical training with elementary school kids of all ages. So it's like exhausting, and then I get home and then I eat poorly because I'm like, well, I just did 3 hours of soccer. I'm hungry and tired and cranky, and I just want to eat.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, like I was doing really good at waking up by like 6:30 or 7. Now I'm like, 8, 8:30, like I'm like, well, I worked later, and because so it's like I started to fall into that cycle, just kind of like being lazier with my day. And I'm like, well, I have time. I went back and get time block scheduling. You can find time for that. You do have to, I definitely can slip into that big with just being tired, right? Mentally tired.
So did you personally like stop and say, okay, something needs to change, or was it pointed out to you, or how did that shift happen?
I think after the first week, I came home complaining after each one. Why did you stop it, right?
Come on now.
You signed up for this, like I warned you, but you did it anyways. So it was kind of like the oh yeah moment, and then even to just like in the 8 a.m. or the accountability group of like, I did 2 weeks of time. So it was outside like helped me realize it. It'd be a good one. Signed up for it. Get it and like nice. Um. And I get paid for it, right? So it's like,
Right.
at the end of the day, it's not.
And you enjoy soccer, right?
I do. Actually. Yeah, finding that again. I do have fun. It's tiring, but it's things, right? Like it's not life or death.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Okay, I love that. There you go.
Um, I guess so. While I was taking the course, I was very on top of. I've always had the goal in my life of reaching 100 or past 100 pounds. When I was pregnant, I was like 150, but then I gave birth and dropped right back to 95. What? But while I was taking a course, taking the course, it amazed me that I was able to focus on the course and gain. And I brought it up to like 103. But in the past like 3 or 4 weeks, gym has been back. Specifically, the last 2 weeks, gym has not seen me at all. There goes my like the amount of calories I'm eating a day. Like everything has been in the gutter. And I actually got on scale last weekend and I'm on 97. I actually put out goals last week. I was gonna try to get 5 pounds a week. Probably out of all the goals but for doing of but my victim mentality is, oh well, I just started my business, I'm trying to make business cards, I'm trying to run all the things. I don't want to waste my time going in hour at the gym. But it's like, shouldn't, well, I'm trying to tell them, should just cancel personal health just because of last. And I tell it. Not, but I don't have to get it.
Yeah. I love that. In both of your examples, and for me too, for sure, that health piece, like I was home, I'm tired, I'm eating this, I'm not going to the gym. It's that personal piece that we give up kind of the easiest. What you say of just being like, oh, yeah, yep. And and part of like just time blocking is that the idea or the thought is that you're gonna make sure you get your time in. So that you have that time to reset and just like really focus on yourself, because then you can be better for all these other things too. But it is kind of that first thing that we give up. And that's probably one of the easiest excuses for victims like that I'll switch over pretty quick too. Is like, oh, I didn't have time to do it. Or I got up early to do this for my kids, or put this in that space. And so I, over the last couple months, did the same thing. And then we got a puppy, and my dog, I would take her for a walk in the morning. But she's old and she's very forgiving. And so if she doesn't go for a walk, like she's fine. She's gonna go for ones later. But a puppy, right, has a lot of energy. And so I was like, okay, this is actually the best accountability that I could have ever given myself, because I can't, because I owe it to somebody else now, right? So now my health is tied to this puppy. And that wasn't the thought like behind getting the puppy. But now it's like, oh, all of a sudden, if I don't take her for a walk, we're gonna know about it later. And so like now tying my health to that has been just like the best accountability buddy to do that. But that is something where I slip into, oh, I didn't get enough sleep, or I stayed home and watched the Timberwolves last night, so now I'm tired, or whatever that looks like. So, but I think that's interesting how we slide into that. And that is something to like around being accountable. I want to touch that. This is tied to this here, but just tying something else to that accountability, right? That will give us that. So my puppy now is gonna like be walking. So this is Mark King, who was our former president. He said that everyone needs like a box of people. He now does wealth building. He's really big into wealth building. And now he calls them like your 5 advisors. But this is kind of really something to think about as you're looking towards like your friends and family, right? Like who is going to be like your financial person that you would go to for financial advice, and just kind of hold you to like those, right? That's another area where I slip into all the time, where I'm like, okay, I'm going to be really purposeful, and we are going to have these family meetings, and we are going to track what we're doing and all of this, because when you focus on expands, and I keep waiting for my money to expand because I'm focusing on it. And then so there's a portion, right? Spiritual, like who is somebody who can help fill your cup in that way, whatever that cup looks like for you. Your physical, so right, like now I got my puppy to keep me active. And then who is your business partner who's gonna like really be invested in like your growth and your success. Right. So having so like Mark King back at this, they call them his box, but now he refers to them as like his advisors, or who is on his board of directors. He also calls them his board of directors, which I love. So for this next just little exercise, we're just gonna think of maybe who would be, I'll go back to this, you can see him, who would be on your board of directors in these departments? Like who could you lean on?
All right, is it fit you then? You have your 4.
Oh, sorry. He does have, I don't know who his other advisor is, but he does say his he calls them his advisors now. He might have a couple of financial people.
Oh,
now.
yeah. That makes
There's no one. Yeah. I could say my husband, but he also falls. If he falls, I fall.
Right?
It's like, oh, you're not going to the gym? Oh, I'm not going. That's fine.
And if you pointed that out, would it be, like a force of conference, like, oh, did you not go? Like,
Yes. So
so then how do you overcome that, right? Where it's like, he's playing victim, right? Why this, and this? Then we become defensive, right? So how do we overcome that so that we can be each other's buddy, accountability buddy?
I think what needs to happen is, just how our relationship has always been. I'm kind of like he's the man of the house, but like everywhere else, if I go first, he follows, and he'll keep following. He might fall, but if I stay on it, he'll get back on it. But the last couple weeks that I've fallen, he's fallen as well. And so I pointed it out, and I was like, hey, you haven't been going to the gym. Now his situation is a little bit more difficult because he travels for work, and he's going to different states like every other week. So his excuse, well, there's not a Planet Fitness here. And I'm like, well, you're at a hotel, they have a gym. Let's go downstairs, okay? But we were strong on it for like a month or two. And then once I fell, fallen, and then I told him about it, and he's like, I'm gonna get back on it, I'm gonna get back on it. It hasn't happened. So I'm assuming that when I get back on it, if he sees me going back on it, he will then be like, okay, now I can.
Okay. So how are you gonna get back on it?
I feel like if I just like get everything planned with like my real estate experience, like, and it doesn't have to be planned to a T, but like right now it's just with all the emails that I received Friday and this weekend, I was like, oh my Lord, every day more came. And I'm like, I thought I knew what was going on, and there's just more is coming. Once I get that settled, and I feel like my goal is to try and get that settled by tomorrow end of day. I had today and tomorrow to get off to feel that. My goal is to get right back on it by Monday. I'm not even gonna say, oh yeah, I'm gonna get back on it on Thursday or Friday. That's just that. My body's gonna be like, for what?
Yeah.
But Monday for sure, I'm gonna get back on.
What else could you tie it to that you're already doing?
I'm thinking maybe if I give myself like a positive movement, like I'm like, okay, if I hit the gym for a month, not just for a week, it's easy for me to get on like a week and step off again. If I can get on for a month, this I'd be like, let's go on shopping. Let's go to TJ Maxx. You have a go crazy.
Yeah.
I think I actually might do that. Random thought, but I think that will help me motivate.
That's awesome. Yeah. What about you? Were you able to find somebody for your section? Or is there anywhere you're like, I'm gonna have to go find that now?
Yeah, no, I struggle with this more than I realized I would. And I'm gonna get
Yeah. I think this is like really great too, and I think of the different friends in my life too. This is something a recurring thing where it's like, oh, I want to be able to give back. I want to give back in this way. So I was like, you know what? I have a friend who is really good at that piece, right? That volunteerism, and so it's just now just realizing that I'm like, oh, I need to go have coffee with her because she's actually really good at it. And it's something that I would like to do, but I don't know how to do it, right? So like, in that spiritual box of like giving back and doing that, like she's that person that when I think of that, I'm like, oh, she lives like that way that I would love to be able to live. So I know I need to go and like seek her out. And maybe she'll be in my bubble, my bubble there. So just being accountable and just knowing that this is kind of the breakdown to what, how to be accountable. So knowing what your goal is, right? Like that's part of it. How do you do it? How do you feel about that? Based on how you did, what is your goal and what do you need to do now? So that's kind of how you said like, oh yeah, we just kind of walked through those steps. And it made me realize like, yeah, this is my why behind why did I make that goal in the first place? And then it kind of breaks down into maybe there's some outside force that's keeping you from that, right? So how do you shift that? So like, how do you shift so that you are purposeful about, going to the gym and doing that? Or, maybe you need some more training support. What might that look like? Or who might that person be? Sometimes it's a who question, I find too. And there's always growth, right? So as we, this is just, we feel like we're here, we're totally hitting the goal, and then we change the goal or the goal shifts, and now it's like, okay, now I got to do this all over again, right? And figure that out. So yeah, but that is kind of the end of the 6 personal perspective. Cool. You guys have anything you want to add or share or anything? Very intimate. Okay, well, shut us off online. Okay. I appreciate you guys being here and soaking it in.